James was 21 years old when his mother, Mary, Queen of Scots, was executed by the English. His reaction to her death was truly bizarre. He denounced the preposterous and strange procedure, yet took no action, but there may have been a sinister motive behind his silence. But before we get to that, let's take a dive into the life of King James I of England. James I's life was marked by a mix of controversy and scandal. As the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, and her second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, James was born into a tumultuous family dynamic. His parents, both descended from King Henry VII, were cousins, which added layers of intrigue and scandal to their union. Their marriage was far from idyllic, marred by jealousy and violence, particularly when Henry, suspecting Mary of infidelity with her secretary, David Riccio, had Riccio brutally murdered in front of a pregnant Mary. James's life was equally dramatic from the start. His father was murdered 8 months after his birth, under mysterious circumstances, and his mother remarried quickly, choosing a man widely believed to have orchestrated her first husband's murder. This decision led to Mary's downfall, as she was soon captured by rebels, forced to abdicate her throne in favor of the infant James, and imprisoned for the rest of her life. James then became King James VI of Scotland, at just 13 months old, with the Earl of More acting as regent. Mary's escape and subsequent rebellion to reclaim her throne plunged Scotland into conflict. More defeated her at the Battle of Langside, forcing Mary to flee to England, where she hoped her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, would help her regain power. Instead, Elizabeth imprisoned her, and after 20 years, Mary was executed for allegedly plotting against Elizabeth. James, who grew up without ever knowing his parents, was left with a lonely and traumatic childhood, filled with the strict and abusive control of his tutors. James's regency saw constant upheaval. His regent, the Earl of More, was assassinated, the first political assassination by firearm, setting a deadly precedent. 2 subsequent regents also met untimely deaths, one in battle and another from a mysterious illness following a banquet, possibly poisoned by James Douglas, the Earl of Morton, who became the next regent. As James reached adolescence, he began to take control of his kingdom. At 13, he formally entered Edinburgh, where court life, with its intrigues and attractions, awaited him. Among those who caught his eye was Esme Stuart, a 37-year-old married man with 5 children. James quickly became infatuated with Stuart, leading to a scandalous relationship that dominated court gossip. James's relationship with Stuart was far from discreet. Their closeness raised eyebrows, particularly when an English envoy reported witnessing James openly embracing and kissing Stuart in public. This intimacy worried many, including James's regent, the Earl of Morton. Stuart, using his influence over James, orchestrated Morton's downfall by accusing him of involvement in the murder of James's father. Despite the lack of evidence, Morton was executed, and Stuart became the dominant figure in James's life. However, Stuart's influence made him unpopular, especially among Scottish Calvinists, who feared he would lead James astray. In 1582, Protestant earls captured James, imprisoned him, and forced Stuart into exile, ending their relationship. Stuart's departure didn't end James' preference for male company, though. Even after Stuart's exile, James continued to surround himself with men, which led to further speculation about his sexuality. Despite his close relationships with men, James eventually married Anne of Denmark in 1589. Their marriage began with a dramatic episode when storms nearly wrecked Anne's ship on her way to Scotland. In a rare display of chivalry, James personally led a mission to rescue her. Their early marriage appeared affectionate, but soon cracks began to show, particularly when they struggled to produce an heir. Despite the initial affection between James and Anne, their marriage became strained, partly due to James's wandering eye and ongoing relationships with his male favorites. Their first child, Henry, born in 1594, should have solidified their union, but by then their relationship had already begun to deteriorate, setting the stage for more turbulence in James' life. By 1594, the honeymoon phase between King James and Anne of Denmark had ended. Perhaps it was the lack of children or simple boredom, but James, who once passionately courted Anne, had lost interest. Even when Anne became pregnant, it wasn't enough to save their crumbling marriage. During her pregnancy, James took a mistress, Anne Murray, a minor Scottish noblewoman. When Anne of Denmark discovered the affair, she was furious, but James' next actions were even more hurtful. On the birth of their son, Prince Henry, James immediately separated him from Anne, sending him to live miles away at Stirling Castle. Anne was devastated and launched a campaign to regain custody, but James' response was cold and firm. He ordered Henry's guardian, the Earl of Mar, to never relinquish the child to anyone, not even Anne. Their battle intensified, culminating in a public and private conflict. Tragically, after a particularly heated argument in July 1595, Anne miscarried. The heartbreak from the loss silenced their disputes temporarily. James's reign, however, was not just marked by marital strife. By 1600, his growing power brought him into direct conflict with Clan Ruthven, particularly the Earl of Gorey, a longtime enemy. When James visited Gorey House that year, tensions escalated into violence. Alexander Ruthven allegedly attempted to assassinate James, but the king's page intervened, killing Ruthven and sparking a bloody melee that ended with the deaths of Alexander and the Earl of Gorey. Though James claimed self-defense, many suspected he orchestrated the event to eliminate his enemies and erase a significant debt owed to the Ruthvens. The Ruthven affair further strained James' relationship with Anne. Two of her favorite ladies-in-waiting were Ruthvens, and James dismissed them after the incident. Anne, 5 months pregnant at the time, went on a hunger strike until James relented, granting one of them a pension. Anne's defiance led to one of her few victories, but it came at the cost of further alienation from James. Soon after, James became King of England following Queen Elizabeth III's death in 1603. Despite promising to stay connected with Scotland, he quickly abandoned those commitments, returning only once during his 22-year reign. The wealth and grandeur of England captivated James, but they also brought new challenges. During James's journey to England, Anne saw an opportunity to reclaim her son. She gathered supporters and marched to Stirling Castle, but was denied access. The stress caused another miscarriage, but Anne was not yet defeated. When James settled in England, Anne refused to join him unless she gained custody of their son. James, not wanting to appear weak to his new subjects, finally conceded, but any remnants of their love were gone. James' early reign in England was marked by two major conspiracies, the By-Plot and the Main Plot, both aimed at dethroning him. Despite their near success, James shocked many by showing mercy to most conspirators, wanting to avoid starting his reign with bloodshed. However, his leniency soon ended when he faced a more serious threat. James focused on uniting England and Scotland under the title of King of Great Britain, but both countries resisted. Parliament refused to recognize the title, but James insisted on using it, even though it held little real power. Meanwhile, his marriage with Anne continued to deteriorate. By 1607, they had 8 children, but only 3 survived to adulthood, and they lived in separate places. The pressures of kingship began changing James, leading to increasing tension with Anne. She publicly criticized his heavy drinking and conduct, predicting dire outcomes. Her discontent wasn't just personal, it had political ramifications. When James discovered Anne had accepted a rosary from the Pope, he reacted harshly, denouncing the Catholic Church and ordering all Jesuits and Catholic priests to leave England. This crackdown angered Catholics, leading to the infamous Gunpowder Plot. The plot, led by Guy Fawkes and other conspirators, aimed to blow up Parliament and kill James, replacing him with his Catholic daughter. However, the plan was foiled at the last minute, leading to a brutal crackdown. James' forces captured and executed the plotters in a gruesome public spectacle, cementing his reputation for ruthlessness against any who opposed him. The Gunpowder Plot's failure led to harsher penalties against Catholics, erasing any notion of mercy in James' rule. The Gunpowder Plot proved unexpectedly beneficial for King James I. Despite his declining popularity, the assassination attempt renewed public support, allowing his advisors to increase taxes significantly. The following years were among James's most prosperous in England, but a looming tragedy threatened to overshadow his success. The feud between James and Anne over their son, Prince Henry, was long settled. By then, Henry had become a charismatic but arrogant young man, often clashing with his father. During a hunting trip, Henry nearly struck James with a cane in a fit of rage, leaving the king humiliated as the hunting party sided with the prince. James was concerned about Henry's rising popularity and his disrespect, but fate intervened in a tragic way. In 1612, Prince Henry fell ill with a severe fever and died within days. Queen Anne was devastated and was so grief-stricken that she requested no condolences be offered or even the mention of Henry's name. James and Anne's relationship, already strained, deteriorated even further as James became a reminder of her loss. England mourned the prince, with over 1,000 attending his funeral. However, James himself did not attend, reportedly due to his aversion to funerals. James's preferences shifted from his previous favorites when he developed a new affection for Robert Carr, a young page who had caught his eye in 1607. After helping Carr recover from a fall during a jousting tournament, James lavished him with titles and gifts, making him the Earl of Somerset. Carr's rise was swift, but fraught with problems. His affair with Frances Howard led to a scandalous downfall. Howard had Carr's friend, Thomas Overbury, poisoned, leading to a dramatic trial where both Carr and Howard were sentenced to hang. James, unable to execute Carr, commuted their sentences but imprisoned them in the Tower of London for 7 years. As Carr's star waned, George Villiers entered the scene. Handsome and intelligent, Villiers quickly became James's new favorite. James made him Duke of Buckingham, the first commoner to achieve such a title in over a century. Villiers also won Queen Anne's favor. She called him her dog, and trusted him to look after James. Unlike previous favorites, Villiers remained influential until the end of James's reign. James and Anne had become estranged, with Anne suffering from gout and dropsy in her final years. James, engrossed with Villiers, rarely visited her. He saw Anne only 3 times during her illness and was absent when she died at age 44. Despite their troubled marriage, James was deeply affected by her death. He experienced physical and emotional distress, though he did not attend her funeral, possibly due to his declining health. In the wake of Anne's death, James' health deteriorated even further, plagued by arthritis, gout, and other ailments. His constant drinking and the loss of his teeth exacerbated his condition. By 1625, he had become too frail to govern effectively, delegating responsibilities to Villiers and his son Charles. James suffered a stroke and, after lingering for a few weeks, succumbed to dysentery. His final moments were spent with Villiers by his side. King James, therefore, died as the first ruler of both Scotland and England. But as we hinted earlier, he had to betray his own mother to do it. All those years ago, when the English had married Queen of Scots executed under shady circumstances, James publicly condemned the preposterous and strange procedure that led to her end. And while he talked a big game, he made no move against England for vengeance. James knew he had to keep playing nice if he wanted to inherit the English throne one day, so that's exactly what he did. Historians debate James's sexuality, with some pointing to his harsh stance against sodomy as evidence of heterosexuality. However, his passionate correspondence with George Villiers suggests otherwise. One letter included an intimate reference to their relationship, hinting at a deeper connection than James' public stance might suggest. In one particularly specific passage, Villiers wrote, "I entertain myself, your unworthy servant, with this dispute, whether you loved me now better than at the time which I shall never forget at Farnham, where the bed's head could not be found between the master and his dog." Sure, that's not technically proof of anything, but come on now, and remember Esme Stuart, his former favorite. Their relationship continued even after Stuart was forced to leave Scotland. Their correspondence remained affectionate, and Stuart's death was marked by a particularly, let's call it, romantic gesture. His embalmed heart was sent to James. Despite the controversies and challenges of his reign, James' personal relationships and their complexities played a significant role in shaping his legacy. Music,